Welcome to SDA Mastery, the podcast series hosted by Tania Gomez Consulting. In each episode, we'll be sharing valuable insights and tips that can help you learn the intricacies of specialist disability accommodation. We will demystify the entire SDA process, give you direct access to experts in the field, and help you to discover what life is like as an SDA provider. Whether you're thinking about leaping into SDA or you're looking to level up your existing NDIS business, you're in the right place. Come on in, let's explore the SDA space together.
Hi Brendon, thank you for joining us today. We're interviewing Brendon Woolf about the participants funding process for Specialist Disability Accommodation. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tania. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Now, I've heard that you have quite a story about your journey to being an SDA participant.
Yes, I do. My journey was quite longer than what normally would be perceived for a participant applying for SDA. My journey started back in 2019, so I was having a regular visit with my occupational therapist, and we were talking about, she was asking me what my plans were in the future for, eventually moving out of home, like, do I plan on working, that kind of thing. And I was like, I would like to live on my own, in my own place. I've always dreamt of moving out of home like any able-bodied person does when they're 18, 19. It's sort of a passage of freedom, really. And so she told me that there was Specialist Disability Accommodation available through the NDIS. It was only relatively new to the scheme, and she asked me if I would think about applying. And I didn't have to think too long. I was like, yes, let's do it. So we went through the process of doing all the assessments, the functional capacity assessment, the reports that required, the evidence gathering. That took about 3 to 4 months. After we had got all that information together, what the process is you submit a change of circumstances review through the NDIS, and that's how we got the ball rolling with the SDA application. It did take a while to hear back from the NDIA, and unfortunately the NDIA's decision was not favourable in what I was requesting. So I was requesting single occupancy, living on my own, basically, so I could have my friends and family come and go of my own choosing, because what we know is the NDIS is about choice and control, and it should be that across the board, not just with support and other services. It should be around home and living too. So I basically asked the NDIA what the next step was, and we had to do a review of a reviewable decision. So we had to, again, gather further additional evidence to support my application, and that was not accepted either. So I then had to go down the path of the Administrative Appeals Tribunal. While I must say that the AAT is not mandatory, participants don't have to appeal through that path, but because I was so passionate about having my own space and moving out of home. I moved out I was 35 before I moved out. So I started later on in life, but I was so keen on moving out. So I decided to apply for through the AAT. How that came about was I was looking for because I did receive some SDA in my plan. It was the shared 1 to 3 accommodation, and I was like, but that's not how I choose to live. I don't want to share with people I don't even know. And I have a great team of independent support workers that come and go of my choosing. And it would have created a whole catastrophe with my support workers interacting with their support workers, with the other resident support workers, and you just don't know the types of disabilities that other people have that could be living in that complex. So I was like, so we got in contact with Greg Barry from SDA Services, and he assisted me with writing my application. In the meantime, I approached Adapt Housing, David Whitelaw and his team. I'm very thankful for the opportunity that they gave me. They allowed me to move into an apartment on my my old level of SDA funding up until I could receive the appropriate level of funding that I was seeking. So they supported me through the whole AAT application, we had to go through the stages of the AAT process. So there's a case conference, then you have to go through directions hearings, and it all involved lawyers. So you basically, and I was unable to afford a lawyer, so Greg Barry got me in contact with a company called Holding Redlich. They do a lot of NDIS AAT appeals, and I contacted Jonathan Mills, and he represented me through the whole process. By the time we got to a hearing stage, it was June of 2022.
Wow.
So this is a whole 3-year process. So my hearing went over 3 days, over 3 months. So the hearing didn't go consecutively, it was split. And the NDIA were quite critical in what evidence I had, and they were trying to introduce evidence late into the piece, such as actuary reports that participants don't even get to see. Basically, the number crunching people that don't understand people with disabilities and their needs. And I was quite frustrated by that. My hearing concluded in September of last year on the 22nd, and I only received my decision on the 19th of May this year.
Wow. So how long is that in total?
We worked it out to be 918 days.
918 days.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what would have happened if the AAT agreed with the agency?
Well, I would have had to find alternative that shared accommodation. And while this was all going, I fell in love with the SDA and the passion and for participants, and I got employed by the Summer Foundation as a lived experience facilitator, and from that I grew my SDA knowledge. I had a good mentor in David Whitelaw from Adapt Housing and Min from NDIS Property Australia. I've learned so much, and now it's my turn to share my knowledge and my experiences and assist participants who may be looking at SDA and say to them that it is worth applying. What we've seen over the last 12 months is a massive shift in the agency's thinking around home and living decisions. Participants get more of a choice and control about who they want to live with and how they want to live with their lives. What we've seen from the recent SDA price guide change is SDA funding is basically tripled for people, and I think that's a really good thing that the agency is shifting in that way.
Yeah. Investing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. And so you mentioned Adapt Housing a few times. Are they your SDA provider?
Yes, they are my SDA provider.
Wonderful. And are you in your home?
I am in my home. I actually, as of last week, have finally got all the pieces of equipment that I need installed. So I got the ceiling hoist finally. That took 3 years to get. So it has been quite a very long journey. And unfortunately, I'm not the only one that's gone down that path. So through that horrible process, there are other participants that have had to do that and that are still going through that process.
Yeah, and it really, the reason that you were approved in the end is because you continued to push the argument about what you wanted based on choice and control.
Exactly. And that's what the NDIS is all about. It's built over in all their legislation, in all their documents. They give to people choice and control. Participants have the right to choose and control how their supports are delivered and who delivers them to them.
Yeah.
And that should be the same with home and living as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Where you choose to live is such an important part of your life. As you said, moving out of the family home is a rite of passage. Living independently is so, rewarding and fulfilling. And it's definitely something that everyone should get to experience.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. It's an inspiring story. And I think what's also really inspiring is your courage to continue pushing for what you deserve and what you wanted, but also that you were able to form this amazing community behind you where the SDA provider is assisting you and so many other people, the lawyers were helping you, because without those pieces, you might not have got the outcome. Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm interested about your house. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
So it's situated in Logan, which is about 40 minutes south of the Brisbane CBD.
Yeah.
It's located probably about 2 minutes from the local train station, so I can easily access public transport from there. It is the shops and doctors and even the local hospital is directly across the road from the train station. So when I was looking at properties, that was the things that ticked the boxes: location towards public transport, and other amenities such as doctors and hospitals. And it was even close to my friends and family. My dad and my sister live not even 5 minutes drive from where I live now.
Wonderful. That's really great. And when I'm learning about SDA, I know a lot of times we use terms like participant-led, where there's an anchor tenant or a participant who is there and the house is built around their needs. Was that the case for you? Did you kind of co-design the house with Adapt Housing?
No, they had already had an architect and developers and builders. That was their role. My role since then and since the construction of my property is sort of, they've come to me and they've said, okay, what do you think we could do better next time when we're building a property? And that's something that I feel that SDA participants could, benefit from providing builders and investors and SDA providers. So when a builder and a provider look at building a property, they get it right from the start. I do understand that there is NDIS, SDA design standards for each different category, but I think if it's heavily consulted with lived experienced participants who have SDA, I think that could also have a major benefit to future changes to design standards in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me about your SIL provider and how that works.
So I don't actually access SIL. I have a team of independent support workers because I'm plan managed, and we've worked out a system of how to provide the best support that best fits me at the right times.
Wow. Okay, wonderful. And in your home, how have you made that your home?
I'm a huge fan of rugby league and supercars. I've got memorabilia and posters up on the walls in my living room and my bedroom. I've actually printed out the first copy of my AAT decision and I've framed it and it's up on the walls.
That's wonderful.
As a reminder of how far I have come.
Yeah.
My home is important to me now. It's even more important to me now than when I first applied for it. It actually means something more to me now because I fought for it and I've kept it.
You've won.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is this your forever home? You see yourself living there for a long time?
I think so. It all depends too on, what my future holds in terms of working and maybe having a partner and a family later on down the track. It all depends on that. But for the meantime, I'm happy and I'm really blessed to have the opportunity that I do have because SDA is not for every participant, and I think the ones that have it should be very proud that they do have it.
Yeah. And what would your advice be to a participant in a similar situation as you that's considering it but thinks, oh, it's a big process. I don't know if I'm going to have the support. I don't know if I can do 900 something days of waiting around.
Well, that's something that I've been asked many times. And I've said this as a start. If I was asked to do it all again now, without what's happened with the changes within the agency, I probably wouldn't do it again because it was such a mental health anguish. They question every aspect of your life. But to participants who are looking at applying now, I would say definitely give it a go because we're seeing a shift within the agency. We know that the federal government is abolishing the AAT. They're setting up a separate independent review system and they have been trialling it, but we still don't know the anecdotal we haven't seen any anecdotal outcomes from that trial. So that's still relatively new and fresh. But I think the Minister, Bill Shorten, is on the right path and the right track to turning the scheme around to what it's designed and what it should be about. And it should be about people with disabilities having choice and control in how they live their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I'm really curious about what you had this monumental goal of living independently and in your own home, which you managed to achieve after a lot of effort. What are your goals now? What's next for you?
I haven't really thought that far ahead. I want to obtain full-time employment. I want to work in SDA space. I want to advocate heavily for participants. But yeah, working really hard to helping other participants achieve their home and living goals. That's my main goal now. I think I'm the right person to work in the sector, and I will do my hardest to prove and work hard to provide good quality advocacy and assistance to participants.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today and joining me to talk about the SDA funding process. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention or say, or you think that I've missed?
No, I think you've covered it all. I think the important part to remember here is that when a participant is applying for SDA, it's really important that they really think it through. And to families of participants who, what we know from the past is a lot of families get scared that their family member is not going to be cared for or not going to be looked after. You know, there's always that risk of them thinking that they're not safe. SDA is safe. It is, the participant is definitely well looked after, and you know, parents and family members can be assured that they are making the right choice when it comes to home and living.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's great to have you.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of SDA Mastery by Tania Gomez Consulting. We hope you found this episode helpful and valuable. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, leave us a rating and share it with others. Until next time, keep learning.